guys, welcome back to the channel. Another repair video for you. Kind of a repair video. We're going to be fixing the problems, engine related, for the 1990 Chevrolet Lumina Eurosport 3.1 V6. This will be the same repair for the 2.8 if you have one, or the Chevy Celebrity 2.8 like I have sitting over here. You can see the wheel right there. So anyway, I went to the parts store, got a few parts. Been to the junkyard today, got a few parts. Starting off, I got a whole nother throttle body. Looks to be a stock. I'm hoping that this is stock, or whoever replaced this one before, if it has been, that they did it right. I completely, fully cleaned this thing, front to back, throttle plate, everything is shiny and clean like it needs to be, should be. The little ports right here for the vacuum part is all clean. Carburetor cleaner and some purple power does wonders. It didn't need to be perfect, I just wanted it cleaned. The auto air control valve that came out of this one is completely nasty. I mean, check this out. That's really bad. If you wipe it constantly, this is what it should look like. You see the silverness, shininess to it, so yeah, that's pretty nasty. However, the one that came on this car, that one right there sitting on the intake, is actually brand new. That's what the guy told me. The car only has 144,000 miles, so try not to get distracted, but there is beetles everywhere. I'm going to have to get a fan out here, and it's really bad. These little guys are everywhere. I've never seen so many, but evidently a light is attracting them. Anyway, this, as you can tell, is like brand new. It's clean as can be. And the white part's not, yeah, it might be broke. Maybe that's what's wrong with this one. May have to put in the old one. Oh, no, it moves. Yep, see, that's what it's supposed to do. In and out. Ew, no, I just broke it. You gotta be kidding me. Son of a biscuit, man. Brand freaking new. Alright. Well, no, I'll put it back in there. But that I don't know, that moves too much for me to think that that's right. Here's one that came out. It's got a little bit of movement, but you really got to push on this one. I don't want to break this one. Yeah, I'm just gonna clean this really good with carburetor cleaner, brake cleaner, and then I'm gonna throw this one in instead. I believe this guy here is bad. Maybe he was messing with it and broke it, because that's not supposed to come out, ever. If this ever comes out like it just did, it's broke. And I can actually see the pieces in here, the white is broke, so that's trash. That's another reason why the car would not idle right. And then we had a TPS code, throttle position sensor, which is this guy right here, and the code was 22, which is signal low error, I believe is what it was. And the only way to replace that, you have to take the throttle body away from the intake, and then you can get in here with a Torx bit and replace it. However, when you take these off, they got like a little bit of a play to them where they turn back and forth to have to be adjusted just right. Now, whenever I remove these, I usually mark on the throttle body exactly how they line up, so I can actually take the new part and line it up with the old one. If you don't, you'll get it out of whack, and then you'll cause the car to run, not start at all, or do what this one's doing. It's got a check engine light code for that, and that sensor's brand new. Bug just flew in my face. And it won't idle right. When you try to give it gas, it just cuts out and stalls. And that's pretty much what this does. And it won't run with the vacuum ports plugged up. That's why they're like that. So anyway, I'm going to quit chit-chatting and just get this thing done because I want to hear it run. I picked up a throttle body gasket, and it came with the kit with the intake manifold. I didn't bring the whole kit out here. I just wanted this piece. So that's new. I got a coolant temperature sensor, not a sponsor, by Duralast. The part number is SU109. There you go. I think it was like 20 bucks, 25, something like that. Then I got another part. This is for the transmission. It's the modulator valve. As you can tell right there, modulator valve. AutoZone. I think it was like $20 to $25 too as well. And there's the part number. This goes on the transmission, and I'll show you that in just a second. Comes with a vacuum hose to be replaced because this one is cracked. This pretty much just controls your shifting points and everything. How firm, how soft you want the transmission to shift by vacuum. There's a little set screw in here that you can turn it. You turn it in, the harder the shift. Counterclockwise, the sloppier the shift is, I guess is how you would say it. And it does have an O-ring. Make sure it has an O-ring if you're replacing this guy. Common failures. One of the main things is shifting problems, and another one that this one's doing is the actual valve itself is messed up, the diaphragm inside of the one that's on the car, and it's allowing transmission fluid to come sucking through into the intake. So that's why it's capped off. So I got to fix that as well. So first of all, I'm going to take this intake and junk off, get it out of the way, and then we're going to get to the throttle body. Alright, 7mm bolts holds the air filter box on. Flip that up. There's a little sensor back here that you got to unplug, and my connector's already broke. See what I was talking about? It's not going to work. 5/16 is the size for the throttle body, and that wasn't even tight. This was a mass airflow sensor setup. This would cause a leak, and that would cause running problems. Looks like we need to fix that. It should just come off. There it goes, it glued on. Don't want to rip it. There it goes. Ooh. Don't smell like gas or anything, so it's oil. Must have a lot of blow by. I don't know. I haven't had it running long enough to check anything like that. Not in the throttle body. Look. For all I know, it could be missing a throttle body base gasket. So I've already got the auto control here mode. Just gonna go down here. 213s hold the throttle body off, hold on. Come on, little guy. Alright, to get the cables off of the throttle body, down here on the side, there is two of these little clips that holds the cables on. You pretty much take a flathead, pry this part up, and then you see the holes bigger and smaller, and then you slide it out and it pops off. You don't want to lose these because that's what holds the cables on together. I'm just going to put them on the intake. Then you have a TV cable, meaning right here is a TV cable. You see that guy, and it just pops out this way. Pop it out and then move it to the side. Once that, then the throttle is loose, you can pop the cables off. That junk out of the way. Wow, there's a lot of gum up. Throttle body gasket's still on there, still intact. But man, there is a lot of stuff inside that intake. I need to check the PCV valve. Big time. Because that's bad. Alright. Throttle body is off. I compared to the two. The sensors don't look to be off of how the calculator is supposed to be put on. However, the outdoor control valve that came out, remember I showed you it was broke. Well, the O-ring was broke too, so that's a vacuum leak. And that's just a lot of a mess of issues there trying to sort out. But I'm going to throw this new throttle body on. It's only got 127,000. That's what the vehicle had that I got it off the junkyard. 3.1. It can't be a 2.8 because the 3.1 and the 2.8 have different throttle bodies. The shafts of them are more in or something like that, because I tried putting a 3.1 throttle body on that and it wouldn't work. Something about the cables on a 2.8 are out farther than a 3.1. 3.1's closer in. So anyway, we're going to replace the coolant temperature sensor. It's right here. And this hose is about to pop and it's all disintegrated. I'm thinking about just bypassing all this junk, so if I ever have to take the throttle body off again, I don't have to worry about taking the coolant hoses off and losing coolant or touching coolant on the side of the road if I got to mess with it on the side of the road for whatever reason. I can just take this hose, run it to this line, and bypass all of that. All it does is help it heat up to, you know, to idle it down or whatever like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this temp sensor in because cooling fans were not working. I did get this up to temperature one time and it got over temperature. It was getting up to about like 250 or 235 or something like that. I know it was around that range. So I know the cooling fan is not coming on. I know it works because when you use the OBD port to check codes, it makes the fan come on. So whatever is controlling it, like this right here, or the relay, is not working. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take this out. It's a 19mm, and I'm going to swap it right back in its place. I'm actually going to use a 3/4 because I can't get the socket in there with the hoses in the way. It fits just snug, tight. You basically want to keep the most as you can. Damn bugs, man, tonight. Don't want to lose as much as coolant. You want to just go ahead, pull the sensor out, and pop the other one right back in its place without losing so much coolant. Here's the old one, all green and corroded. You want to pay attention when you change these out that there is no, and I do see a little bit on this, there's no green stuff inside of here, and you want to make sure that the connector to that sensor is actually clean as well. If there's any time to put green or anything like that, you need to clean it out with some electrical cleaner and then blow it out with compressed air, or just let it dry if you don't have compressed air, to make sure there's no connection issues. And what did I just say? Check that out. It's broken. So now I'm going to have to go to the parts store and buy another dadgum connector because that's trashed. That's no good. If I'm not mistaken, I got one laying around somewhere. I'm going to dig through my parts stash to see what I can find. If I can't, I'll have to buy a new one. Alright, can't find anything in the parts stash, so I'm going to have to go to the parts store, and if they don't have it in stock, I have to order one up and then see what else I can find. Alright, so it's been a few days. I've had to wait on parts ordered in and just yada yada yada. I mean, it's this car's fighting me. But so we got a new coolant temperature sensor, got a new connector as we seen in the last video or last clip that I recorded, and I spliced in a new one. As you can tell, these are shrink wrap butt connectors. So They are protected from moisture. I don't have the PCV valve hooked up yet. The hose is in, the intake's in, connector's back on, and everything's bolted down. I come up with a simple fix for the hose down there. I bypassed the coolant part that goes to the throttle body because I couldn't find any new hoses for that 90-degree bend. So I kind of got screwed on that. So I just bypassed it. So battery's in, it should be charged. Got a fire extinguisher handy. Everything's hooked back up like it should be, factory. Everything's put back on, throttle body, intake hose, idle control valve. This is the used throttle body from the junkyard. So let's see what happens, I guess. I'm hoping and praying that this actually fixes it, because if it doesn't, I don't know what else the problem is, unless there's something in the wiring for that TPS that's causing that code to pop up. Heard the fuel pump. Roll the window down just in case, so I can shut the door. Alright. I'm not going to prime it, I'm just going to prime it that one time and see what happens. Half a tank of gas. Oh boy. Still spitting and sputtering. Awesome. I believe I got a problem with that fuel pressure regulator. Is it actually going to idle? Oh my gosh. Come on, girl. It's got to clear out a lot of that stuff. You got to think this thing has been sitting and running wrong all this time, and now I finally got everything set correctly. It should idle and run right now, but it's got to burn all that junk off, because it was burning a lot of either raw fuel or oil in the plugs, because it was smoking before. Seems to be a lot healthier. I do hear a slight miss. Could be a plug wire, a plug, or the ignition coil. And I've got plugs and wires for it, and I'm just not going to put them on just yet. I wanted to get it running first, and then go from there. Smells a lot better. Yeah, a lot better. A little bit of a vacuum leak right there. There's a little bit of smoke. That's just going to burn the cooling off of the exhaust. Definitely misfiring. That's interesting. Getting better. The computer's got to go through all the monitors, all the systems, you know. Like I said, this thing's been sitting, and it's just got to, you know, run through its course. Plus, I put fuel treatment in the gas tank too, with fresh gas. That sounds better. It's running on all 6 seems to be. What are we doing on temperature? Doing okay so far. No check engine light on. Idling pretty good. Oil pressure's good. happy with that. I don't know if I trust it to go down the road just yet. But it sounds a lot more healthier than it ever has been so far. Can't help myself, I just want to rev it. I don't like that. Does not like that at all. And there goes the misfiring again. Could have a bad injector. Still fuel pressure regulator. Because of the way it misfires and clears up like that when you give it gas. Usually a bad coil pack will do it all the time. Not coming and going like that. Huh. Now the other thing too, the modulator valve, I just now thought about that. I haven't replaced it just yet. I put it in gear. Alright, gracious, my mouth is toast. Okay, running on all 6. Reverse to drive. Not too bad. Alright. Let it cool down. Just a little bit. I'm going to check the coolant level. Let that smoke clear away. Check a couple things out. And, alright, so it's been even longer now. As you can tell, a few things have changed. And, well, I don't know really where to start off because it's been at least a couple months or more since the last time I was working on this car. But I actually did fix it, and it actually runs and drives perfectly now. And I'm just going to go shortly, long story short, and tell you pretty much what I had to do to figure out why it was not wanting to accelerate, rev up, drive, anything. Which was because I lost the 5-volt reference to the TPS, which is named Throttle Position Sensor. That sensor, the map sensor, and the EGR valve are all three tied in together with the same white wire that you're supposed to have the 5-volt reference from the ECM, which is located underneath this cover. Well, come to find out, after going through wiring harness and stripping everything down, trying to figure out if it had been eaten by a rat or just cut or rubbed against something and rubbed a hole in it and it's grinding itself out. All that was clear, but I did put new wire looms on it, what I could find at the junkyard, back on this, because the wires that run underneath the power steering pump down here, that you can't see because the camera doesn't want to focus, it's a long stretch of wires. The whole wiring loom was gone. It was corroded, and it just, you would touch it and it would just crumble to pieces. So I put a new wire loom on that all the way down. It runs underneath the AC compressor and then straight to the ICM, which is the ignition control module. And anyway, so there is a pressure switch right here, an iron pressure switch, a coolant low switch. You see it right here in the radiator? Alright, it has 3 wires to it. Guess what? That one wire for the 5-volt reference goes through the sensor. This sensor specifically failed and caused me to lose the 5-volt reference from the ECM all to those 3 sensors, which was making the car run terribly and making it run all kinds of crazy. There was no wonder that's why I couldn't drive it, rev it up, or even halfway even start it. So the 38 or 40 psi of fuel pressure is perfectly fine because the car drives amazingly now. Went to the junkyard, found another sensor, pulled that one out that was in here, which was corroded, and I'm guessing that's why it failed. Put this one in there. And this one's only a 2-wire. I need a 3-wire sensor, so the light on the dash is still on for coolant low when it's full. And you can get a new one, but those suckers are about $100, and it's just not worth it. All the ones at the junkyard that I find are 92 to 94, which is this body style, have the 2-wire sensor connector, and that's the one I got. I didn't know that until I put it on. So it'll leave the light on. I don't really care. I know it's full. If it overheats, then I know something's wrong. But anyway, getting to the point here. So I replaced it. Check engine light went off. Everything had its voltage again and power like it's supposed to. Car lit right off, and it sounds amazingly now. I don't know if I've mentioned, but I'm just going to go through what I've done to the car, which is a new coolant temperature sensor and the connector for it. The throttle position sensor has been replaced. Those two are brand new. And the outer control valve I had to replace because, as you seen in the last clip, I broke it. And the junkyard Chevrolet Corsica had one on it, so I snapped that up. And it actually had brand new coils and ignition coils and the ICM ignition control module. I grabbed that as well and replaced it because the coils on this, one of them was failing or two of them were, and the ICM completely just took a dump. I had to replace that. Along with all this, some of this was off of camera, some of it wasn't. Then the crank sensor I replaced because I thought it was that before the ICM, but it was actually the ICM and not the crank sensor. So, but at least that's been done because it's common failure on the 2.8 and the 3.1. The motor mounts on top, the dog bone mounts right here for torque, those have been replaced. The coolant pipe gasket right here, crossover, has been replaced. And I'll get to that in just a second, why it looks like that. The coolant hoses that are probably about this long that go to the throttle body, to this metal pipe that goes around here, busted. I replaced those. And the car overheated really bad on me. Luckily I wasn't too far from home. And so it's fresh coolant, bled system, and so this guy here, when I took the bolt out, which looks like this one right here, it's a 5/16 or an 8mm, that one snapped off inside the timing cover. Couldn't get it out. I drilled it out 2 or 3 times, screwed up each time, and had to fill it back up with JB Weld. And finally came up with an idea to take a threaded stud like you see here, put it in the hole, put JB Weld in there the same way, take a nut and a washer and the gasket, put it all together and tighten it down, and that's the fix. Because I couldn't get it out, and I kept on and I kept on until I put a hole into the outside of the timing cover, and it would have leaked coolant. So all that's fixed, and man, that was an ever-living headache to fix that when that happened. But it's all done, and she's got fresh fuel in her again. And I don't know if I mentioned, but I changed the oil, and I've added some transmission fluid, and we also changed the transmission modulator valve down there, which makes the transmission shift flawlessly now. And changed this little air sensor right here for the air box, and also put a different air filter in it. And I changed the intake hose, fixed the PCV valve that was broke, the vent hose, and I believe that's about it, really. Oh, and I changed the fuel filter in it. That's been replaced because the owner that I bought this from was like a tweaker. He put the fuel filter on backwards. I have no clue how in the world the car ran and drove at all with it being backwards, but it did. Also, plugs and wires have been changed. And so I had the wrong plugs in it. It had iridium plugs. You do not put iridium plugs in a GM V6. That's just not a good thing. They don't run well. I always use AC Delco or Autolite in mine that I run. Alright, so enough of chit chat. I know a lot of you get boring. Please don't skip this because it's a lot of good information. I know that I get boring when I talk about some of this stuff, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to do better on that and try to cut some of this out. But I'm hoping whatever I'm doing is helping somebody out there that has trouble with one of these cars or something close to it with the same drivetrain, and it helps fix their problem and gets their car back on the road again. So without further ado, let's go ahead and fire up the old Lumina. And I'll show you what she sounds like now. $144,695 miles. Radio works. It's been sitting for a couple weeks. Oh yeah, smell that fresh fumes of gas through the exhaust. Nothing like the sweet sound of a front-wheel drive V6. However, some bad things that are happening to the car, or that needs to be done to the engine, as well as a belt tensioner, crank harmonic balancer needs to be replaced, because both those two items are making the belt squeal. And the belt's not even that old. Catalytic Converter is going bad. It's rattling when you first fire it up cold, so that's another thing. But I'm not worried about it. There is a lot of wind in the background, so if it cuts out some of the camera volume, sound, I'm sorry. Now, when you give it the beans, it actually revs up. Look how responsive that is. Very, very responsive. I wish I could get the other car to do that, because the 2.8 and the other one, it ain't that damn responsive. Nothing like a good old sound of exhaust. But I guess that is going to conclude this video, if you can even halfway hear me, because of the wind noise in the background. See, the oil pressure is really good. Temperature's coming up. Full tank, well, half a tank of gas. The cooling fan motor, I had to replace that because it went bad and it would overheat if you sat too long, like at a red light or a drive-through at McDonald's or something. I had to replace that too. And the AC quit working. I don't know why, but I ain't worried about it because it's wintertime now. But anyway, it runs and drives now, and that's all I really wanted and care about for the most part. And there'll be another video coming out on this car. Stay tuned for that one. We'll take this thing to the car wash and clean it up, inside and out, top to bottom, and tell you the plans for this car. But if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the car and other things in the comments. Make sure you have that notification bell on so every time I upload, you get notification. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more content like this. I decided I couldn't leave you empty-handed. I gotta show you how she drives. I guess it's up to temperature, so Let's give it the beans. That wasn't even to the floor. Three ones over the 2.8. There's some difference in there, for sure. Just beautiful this time of year. Speedometer is 5 miles off, so really technically I'm only doing 50. Those burn marks ain't from me. Maybe one of them are. I do have to leave a window open because it stinks in here. It smells like mold. I kind of got sick for about a week and a half after being in this thing for a week with the windows up and the heat on. Again, not even to the floor. Doesn't take much at all to move this thing down the road. Pretty much drive straight. It's not even got an alignment issue. Another thing too I like about the Luminas is the steering. And I don't know if that was on all models, but you move this thing and it's damn tight. There is no play in the steering at all. Everything is there. As soon as you turn, it turns. I mean, there's no give. The Celebrity has a lot of slack, I guess you would say. I mean, it turns, but it's not as tight as this one is. The suspension is a little different than the other one, so I guess you would have that. Plus, this has four-wheel disc brakes, so. Shifts way better. Third, like it's very touchy. Pretty sweet. Alright guys, that's going to conclude this video. Thanks for watching. Like I said, like, share, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one.